spawn.
You wired me awake and hit me with a hand of broken nails. You tied my lead and pulled my chain to watch my blood begin to boil. But I'm gonna break. I'm gonna break my rusty cage and run.
Well, the high-level concept behind the game is that you play a badass bounty hunter in this sci-fi futuristic world. And really the genesis of that was, after we finished Prey 1, we were looking at what can we do with Prey 2? Where can we expand it? Where can we take the player to kind of a new part of the Prey 2 universe, or the Prey universe overall? And the high-level idea, when we came up with the idea of playing a bounty hunter, because we wanted to flip the kind of the predator-prey relationship, we wanted to let the player be the hunter as opposed to just being the hunted. We came with this idea of you're this badass bounty hunter, you're a brand new character. You don't play Tommy, but Tommy is very much part of the world. So he's an important character. You run into him multiple times throughout the game, and that was just the genesis of the game, and then everything snowballed from there. So the story, and we're not going too deep into the story today, but really the core of the story is that Killian was abducted by aliens doing the exact same abduction sequence as Tommy. He finds himself on a sphere, on this giant spherical mothership that's orbiting around the Earth, and he manages to escape the sphere in a very different way than Tommy did in the first one. Killian finds himself on this distant planet called Exodus, and when the player first takes over as Killian on Exodus, Killian's been there for many years. He doesn't recall everything that he had been up to, so it's kind of up to the player to go through and start to discover. It's about self-discovery, just like the first one was. It's about Tommy's self-discovery. The second one's about Killian's self-discovery and kind of uncovering what he was up to, what his role is in the larger events happening on Exodus, and how Tommy fits into as well, because, like I said, Tommy's very much a core part of the story. Well, I can't go into everything that Tommy's doing, but part of the story is uncovering what Killian and Tommy were up to the point where the player takes over as Killian. People who played Prey 1, they'll definitely recognize a number of characters from the first one, a number of enemies that carry across. So if you've played through the first one, there's a lot of enemies you'll recognize, and there's a ton of other species and enemies that are brand new in the sequel.
Break my rusty cage.
Come on, Charlie. She's asked you to turn it off. In a second, Meg.
A big part of it is the self-discovery aspect, and the Native American themes in the first one definitely were part of that. It's about Tommy discovering his heritage, accepting his heritage, and uncovering these kind of latent abilities inside himself that he used to save the day. And the sequel has similar themes in Killian kind of uncovering how he became a bounty hunter, what he's been up to on this planet. It's another story of self-discovery as Killian makes his way around the world and figures out what was actually happening on Exodus. The player doesn't get to use the spirit mode. That's very much a function of Tommy, but I will say that Tommy being able to spirit walk is integral to his part of the story. There's no gravity or portals in the sequel. In terms of puzzles, the really cool thing about the puzzles were, for me, it provided variety, it provided a gameplay, it mixed up the gameplay, it wasn't just shooting. And it also had some unexpected moments, like you go in, there's a weird puzzle, and you kind of don't know what's going to happen. We're doing very similar things to that in our missions, where missions are kind of messy, they don't always go well, there's things that will happen that are unexpected, and now you suddenly have to deal with the situation in a very different way. And from kind of a puzzly aspect, these aren't true puzzles in what I'm about to say here, but from a puzzly aspect, it's how do I approach a situation? Do I want to go in guns blazing? Do I want to go in a little more stealthy? Which gadgets, which equipment do I use in order to most optimally take down these different enemies? The closest thing to gravity is what you saw in the demo, where I can launch a anti-gravity grenade and pull enemies up from behind cover. Really effective. One of my favorite gadgets. It's really cool. In terms of other mechanics, there's not a lot of other mechanics like that from Prey 1 that we're carrying over, because my philosophy with it is Prey 1, we took players to up space in a first-person shooter they hadn't really seen before, visually and from a gameplay standpoint. We're very much doing the same thing with the sequel. We're taking the players to a world, to a part of the Prey universe that they had never seen before, and giving them gameplay mechanics and systems that they had never seen before. So there are different types of bounties in the game, and the bounties will have different abilities based upon their species, based upon their weapons, based upon whatever gadgets they currently have equipped. So there's a lot of variety there. And they also will react differently based upon this is the type of person that they are. Some will flee, some will attack me on sight, some will have henchmen, so after this larger battle while the guy's fleeing, some will surrender right away. So you kind of never know what's going to happen when you encounter an ambient bounty, or even a bounty in a given mission as well. There's a core linear story, so that you can always go back to that story, but there are a number of side missions that you can take as well. So you can choose to, I'll put the story on hold, I'm going to explore the world, find ambient bounties, take side missions, find collectibles. So it's very open in that regard. But in terms of choices, you can choose to take a mission or not, but you could also choose, certain missions have choices in the middle of them. So if I'm going along on a mission and I decide to, say we've got a mission where someone wants you to recover a stolen shipment. So you go and you recover the stolen shipment of arms, and because not all missions are just purely going after a bounty. They're not always about chasing a guy. There's a lot of missions that are about pursuit, but there are a number that, for variety, you get to break it up and do different things. So you go after these arms, you get them back, and then you've got a choice: do I want to keep them or do I want to give them back? If you keep them, then you get a new weapon. But if you give it back, you'll get paid, for the mission. But if you keep it, you're going to piss the guy off who originally hired you for this mission. So he might send some goons after you. It does not change the story. We do have a linear story that we're telling. There isn't like a good versus bad ending. We've got a story that we want players to experience, and that's the one that we're going through. The world is very open. I would probably use the term it's open but directed. And the reason I say that is because there is this linear story you can always go back to. You can always get, if you're lost or you don't know what to do next, you can always go back to the story. But if you don't want to play the story and you just want to explore the world and find ambient targets and find interesting little side events and collectibles and stuff, you totally can do that as well. There's some light RPG elements in it in terms of player progression, in terms of earning perks, in terms of the reputation system, that if I go and I shove guys around or kill random innocents, my reputation will go down, which will have ramifications like the police will be more likely to try to take me down, or if my reputation is higher, vendors might give me more of a discount on items and so forth. There's a lot of really cool weapons in the game, actually. There's a pretty wide variety of weapons, and they're kind of divided into a number of different classes. I mean, we got kind of classic pistols, we got some really cool alien shotguns, we've got a sniper rifle, of course, because I love sniper rifles. We've got a number of kind of more bizarre weapons that are really useful in certain circumstances, and some that are really, really powerful that you'll use a few times, and then you have to wait for it to recharge or get different ammo for it. So really what it is you could think about it, it's divided into, there's a number of worker weapons, there's a number of weapons that are like these really badass, fun to use weapons every so often. There are no weapons from Prey 1 making a reappearance. So these are all new weapons because they're part of the world of Exodus. There's actually also no vehicles in Prey 2. So the reason for this is we took a look at whether we wanted vehicles or not, whether we want to prototype them, and really what it was once we got the free running in, the player's movement, it was so much fun. We're like, this is really, really cool. This needs to be, players really need to exploit this. The closest thing we have to a vehicle, I would say, is the player's hover boots. Because the player's able to leap and then hover, pretty great distances in the game. We can't go too much into the gadgets. We've got over 25 different gadgets, and I think there's about 70 different upgrades for all the gadgets. So there's a lot of depth and a lot of variety there for players to customize themselves using the gadgets based upon which ones they like or don't like. We're talking about a few more of the gadgets, and one of the ones that we're talking about now is the player has an arm-equipped flamethrower. So, we've got grenades, we've got shoulder-mounted rockets, we have stealth gadgets, we've got gadgets for blowing things up. Like I said, we've got gadgets to be more defensive, and we've got a number of really cool melee gadgets as well. Some of them that I can't wait to actually reveal some of these, because I've got at least one that is going to be really exciting to talk about in more detail. Flamethrower is awesome, though. It's kind of a short, mid-range weapon. If you want to go around and just burn people, you totally can. We've done a lot with the tech, actually. We started with IdTech 4, which is an awesome tech to work from. We were very comfortable with it. That's what we used to build Prey 1. So when we started building Prey 2, we started with the code that we're familiar with, and obviously it works out well because we're partnered with Bethesda on the game. So, but we did a lot of stuff to the tech to enhance it. Some of the big things we did were Prey 2 is not a corridor-based shooter, so we had to expand out how far the player can see, what types of things they can see, the number of enemies in view. We built that out, and then we also built what we call physical-based lighting, which it's really awesome for our lighting guys. They go in and just put down lights, and everything just works. The light bounces around correctly, it picks up color from the surroundings, carries the color on, so that's what gives us that really cool, realistic look that we have in the game. And then we've got our own version of Mega Texture. So we really wanted to remove that restriction from the texture artists, just let them run wild. So we've got our own version of that we rolled and created. So we're really excited about the tech that we've created. It's going to come out next year in 2012. It's going to be on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC all simultaneous.
When the forest burned along the road.
Capture device enabled.
No, wait! I pay double, triple! They're using
Looking for their bones. And it's raining ice picks on your steel shore.
Homing rockets enabled.
I'm gonna break mine. Gonna break my rusty cage.
Target identified.
You wired me awake and hit me with a hand of broken nails. You tied my lead and pulled my chain to watch my blood begin to boil. But I'm gonna break